Welcome to the Regular Joe's podcast. I'm Dave Pisani.
I'm Barry Kay.
I'm Todd Pleasant.
All right, check out our Instagram because we're now doing stories. I'm going to post that one.
Okay.
No one cares. But
No
I
one cares.
realized we don't do enough stories, and we're going to start doing more. And we may do something every time we record, just for you, our viewing audience. Todd disappeared. He doesn't
No,
want
he's
to be
back.
part of this. Now he's back.
He's back with his Three Musketeers goatee.
Yeah, Three Musketeers. That's not Three Musketeers
That's
mustache.
all. It's good.
All right.
So today, big show. Special guest, not with us yet. It's not like when Smartless, where they talk for 15 minutes and the guest has been
by
there
the
the
way,
whole
the guys
time.
in the room. Yep.
But joining us shortly, Tom Spina of Tom Spina Designs and Regal Robot, good friend of the show. So we'll talk to him in a few minutes. Yesterday was the Super Bowl, crazy football contest.
Taylor Swift's boyfriend won, I think.
He won. Yeah, I'm all for. I thought it's sort of a joke, but there were people at work who were like, "Yeah, it was a woman who was like, yeah, I just wanted to see Taylor Swift." I'm like, people want to do that. Well, fine.
You know, you
No
could
problem
Google
with that.
pictures of her on your phone. You don't have to sit through an entire game for that.
They say that that viewership was up by like 8% due to Taylor Swift. You know, the last few games, but 70-something% in the 12 to 18 teenage girl bracket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like what you got to think is probably not a big NFL draw, and so hey, good for them.
You know, it's kind of a perfect storm because, I mean, you know, I know there's conspiracy theories out there that say that this was all concocted. I don't believe
Do you
that
love
for a
those
second.
morons who will believe that? They're the same
Yeah.
people who
I
don't
saw
believe
it at-
global
I saw-
warming and
Tweet the other day that said it had a picture of Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio and said, "Remember back in 1956 when Marilyn Monroe ruined baseball?" No.
anyway, good luck for everybody. I know. So, Todd Barry texted us last night that he started watching the Nickelodeon feed, and I did too because I didn't really watch the game. I kind of tuned in and
It was pretty funny, I
in the
have to
third quarter.
say.
Watching the Nickelodeon feed made it way more interesting because it was nice to hear SpongeBob, but the whole there's a regular announcer and then there was SpongeBob and Patrick, and they didn't get into the all the super technical stats and stuff, and they'd even explain things to you. I mean,
It was for kids and people like us that don't care about sports.
yeah, I don't care. I
did see
mean,
a screenshot of Travis's card. You know, the little and it said Taylor Swift's boyfriend also plays good football.
Yeah, I saw that. And they had Larry the Lobster on the field doing field reports. They
is
had
that who
Sandy
that was? I
Cheeks.
wasn't sure who that was, but
It was Larry the Lobster and Sandy Cheeks doing field reports. It was great.
and even the lines, like the line of scrimmage, was sort of a pineapple-y looking thing. So good for
Yeah,
them.
it was all SpongeBob fonts and
It was
themes.
not as
I didn't watch the whole
intense.
game that way, but 10 minutes was hilarious.
Yeah, it was funny. Anyway, so that's that. Let's do some random. I don't know. Do we want to talk about any of the commercials?
Yeah.
Barry mentioned
We
it.
can. I mean, there was I was at a neighbor's house, so I was half paying attention to all of it, but I did see a few of the commercials, and then I watched a few of them after the fact.
I watched a few because I had seen a few, but I watched. I mean, none of them really grabbed me. I mean, I don't know that they ever do, but
There were a few fun ones, though. Like the Christopher Walken one I thought was really good, with everybody doing Christopher Walken impressions to him.
yeah, that was okay.
I like
BMW.
that one. The Ben Affleck Dunkin' Donuts one was fun.
I don't know.
It's just-
The best line in that was Matt Damon when they were walking away, and he said, "Remember I said I'd do anything for you? This was anything."
Yeah, that's funny. That was funny that they got all these people. He has a good sense of humor about himself, which is good.
Yeah.
I showed an outtake on the news this morning from it where I guess I don't even know who that other football player was that was in there, but he was throwing the ball to Matt Damon. And,
Tom Brady, you mean?
Oh, Tom Brady. Yeah, I don't know him by
I
face.
don't watch football, and I know.
I really don't watch football.
Yeah.
So
I
anyway,
only know
Tom
him
Brady.
from that movie. He was in Ted 2. I know
Oh,
that.
I thought you were going to say 80 for Brady.
No,
Didn't Daryl see
he
City
saw that. I
something?
think.
Yeah. So anyway, he's throwing the ball to Matt Damon, and Ben Affleck's like, "Throw it to me, but throw it to me hard. Throw it to me like you throw a real football."
Well, this
And
was behind the scenes, or was this part
this was
of
an outtake that they ended up not using in the commercial.
Yeah.
And he whips the ball at Ben Affleck, and of course he misses it. And he's like, "I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready."
That's fun. Oh, I got to see that.
That was
funny.
actually pretty funny.
This State Farm.
The State Farm was great. I mean,
That
the
was
Arnold,
great.
that was funny. That's
Debo.
Everyone coaching him on how to say.
that was like
Debo.
I thought that was the most fun one of the whole.
I think so too. I was like, get in the chopper, and then the woman's like, it's Chopper.
Yeah,
He's like, "Get me out of this chopper."
Get me in the chopper. It's Chopper.
That was good. So did you see the trailer for Twisters?
yeah. Which really?
There's a scene in that where they're running not very far from a vehicle that gets taken up by the Twister.
Wait a minute,
Like,
Twisters. I didn't even know anything about this. This is a sequel to
it's
Twisters.
a sequel.
It's either a sequel or a remake or.
I don't think it's a remake. I think it's a sequel to Twister.
So what about the car?
Well, they were awfully close to it. You would have thought they being much lighter would have been sucked up by the tornado and not the car.
It
Does
just
not
doesn't
work. Movie physics again doesn't work that way.
I wonder if it's like Helen. We obviously Bill Paxton's not in it, but I wonder if Helen Hunt is that like their kid or something.
I have
maybe?
a funny feeling it might be a kid or something. I mean, it looks like a remake, but I've heard that it's not a remake. So
I have
but it's
zero interest.
Twisters because there's two of them this time.
Glenn Powell, Daisy Edgar Jones, Karen Shipka, Katie O'Brien. Yeah, no, does not look like that.
That didn't.
Or they're keeping that a secret as a secret weapon to get people to go to like
Good
nobody
luck
cares.
with that.
Yeah.
What else was
None
good?
of the,
obviously,
none of the original cast will appear. Yeah,
we saw. I guess it's Deadpool and Wolverine. Seems to be the title.
I was a little surprised that they're going with the whole TVA angle, but I've enjoyed the first two Deadpool movies, so I'm actually really looking forward to it.
I'm looking. Yeah,
I got to say,
I'm
this
looking forward to it,
premise
too.
makes it work because they can, in a movie, they can explain what it is, and you don't have to have seen the other two things, the other two seasons of Loki to get it. But instead of establishing some other way that all this other stuff exists that he just doesn't seem to have noticed before, and I think it's it also gives it no consequence whatsoever. It allows it to be them to have as much fun as they want with it, but it not have all the fanboys going crazy because now it's impacting the Marvel universe. So
they're clearly setting the stage from the very first teaser that it's no holds barred with Disney. I mean that line about pegging's not new to me, but it is to Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is new to Disney. And
just the fact that he calls himself Marvel Jesus.
And Marvel Jesus. it's yeah.
I would imagine they probably have less restrictions now that they're sort of in a bit of a lull. Not a lull,
but this predates this. This goes back to this when they acquired the X-Men, and so I mean they've known for a while they had to find a way of doing something with Deadpool, and you can't make Deadpool something other than Deadpool.
If they were going to neuter it, then they should have just not
That's what
done
I'm saying.
it.
Those two movies were very successful. They have a huge following. Fusing with the Marvel universe is going to be risky, but it is a way of putting the defibrillator on the Marvel universe. So
yeah, it's like you think anyone's going to just because it's Marvel, it's going to be rated whatever it's rated, and if you don't want your kid to see it, you're going to have to be a little responsible.
And I know there's certain degree of fatigue with alternate timelines and parallel worlds and stuff like that, but they're not going to clean the slate. They're just not going to say none of this ever happened before, and we're not going to acknowledge. We're going to make a new Iron Man. We're not going to. You're not going to see that for 20 years. So, this is if they get this established, this is a way that they can, hopefully selectively bring other things in.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't have a problem with using that premise and because it's absurd to begin with, and I think it fits perfectly with him.
Well, and it may be the most fun multiverse thing we get out of the whole
Without it
multiverse.
being a
So-
little-
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. And it's like, and it's a, you know, it's a comic book concept, okay? And if you take it too seriously, it's just, you know, it becomes Doctor Strange. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this, and I hope they throw everything into this.
You all watched the full trailer, right? I mean,
Yes.
there
Yeah.
was the full, yeah.
The other trailer, I honestly didn't know this movie was coming, and now that I've seen the trailer, I kind of wish it wasn't. But the Wicked trailer, I didn't realize they turned that into a movie.
Yeah, I had heard that. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yikes.
wasn't going to see it anyway, but did you see the play?
Maria has seen the play and loves the play, and she watched the trailer with me, and she's like, "Yeah, no, they've kind of gone wrong here."
So where has this worked? Where's it worked? Taking a play, and I mean, obviously you're getting a much wider audience, but it just hasn't been really successful for a long time, right?
Cats.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's what I'm saying. It's like try to think of the play that.
West Side Story.
That's what I go back.
Was it a play first or was it a movie first?
It was a play first.
That's what I'm saying.
A musical, so it's a musical.
Yeah, Grease.
Grease,
for sure.
That's right, but
Grease was not a musical. I don't think. Well, no, it was.
Oh,
it
it
was.
was.
No,
I
it
saw the
was.
original Grease, and it was filthy. By the way.
oh yeah, there's a lot of changes between the movie version and the.
Yeah, it was. It would have been
Also changed radically.
R-rated if it was
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yes, exactly. But
King and I.
again, like I said, Grease, I think is. God, can you think of anything after Grease that worked?
Well, musicals sort of went out of favor.
Well, but there've been a few. There've been a few.
Back to the Future. It was a play. Now they made a movie. Oh no, that's not it.
I think you've got that.
I can't think of anything after Grease, and I know they've tried a bunch of things. So I mean, they've done the reverse. They put a bunch of things on Broadway that were movies, but
This is right for maybe its fans. I mean, you throw Ariana Grande in there. There's a whole that's a segment that's not us.
when you think of it though, this is like right. This is Wizard of Oz.
It is.
It's a
loosely
derivative of
based.
Wizard of
It's
Oz.
in the Wizard of Oz
So-
universe.
It,
Yes.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So it went from film to the stage, back to film again.
Who knows? I guess you have to wait and see. But even the CG and all of it looked just bad. I don't know.
I only saw a little bit of it, and I
Yeah.
wasn't that interested. But you know, it's not gonna be Cats. That's all I got to say.
We'll see. Maybe it will be Cats. Take that good or bad as you will. I don't remember what other movies were there. That movie If is it If another Ryan Reynolds thing?
Yeah, the Ryan Reynolds animated live action.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but it could be okay for kids. Trying to think what other movies. Oh, the prequel to the Don't Talk movie. What was that? You know, the Emily Blunt thing.
Oh, the Emily Blunt thing.
What's
Yeah.
that called?
You said don't
Wow.
talk, and that's all I can think now.
Oh,
Quiet Place.
Quiet Place. Quiet Place. A prequel to Quiet Place. Could be interesting.
prequel or sequel?
Prequel. Well, there is already a sequel.
There already is
sequel.
a
I never
sequel,
saw
but now
the
they're
sequel.
making
So it's not another sequel. It's a
It's a prequel. It's about, I guess, the
when the
aliens
aliens
coming
got
here.
here. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that could be
I
interesting.
have not seen any of those.
The first one
I've only
I
seen
thought
the
was
first
good.
one.
The
Yeah, I've only
second
seen the
one I
first
haven't
one.
seen. So we'll see. So there's stuff going on, but no other Marvel, no DC, right? I didn't see it. There's nothing really in the hopper.
Nope. No Star Wars.
No Star Wars. Speaking of Star Wars, Andor wrapped filming just recently.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
Good. So maybe
it's on its way.
I have a couple of Star Wars related randoms as well.
Go ahead.
This one I just find mind-boggling. Apparently, Elon Musk is helping Gina Carano sue Disney to try to get back into The Mandalorian.
And he said he's offering anyone else who wants to sue Disney, he'll help.
Yeah, So Joe Benarock, who is the head of business operations at X, said, as a sign of X Corporation's commitment to free speech, we're proud to provide financial support to Gina Carano's lawsuit, empowering her to seek vindication for her free speech rights on X and the ability to work without bullying, harassment, and discrimination. So she is suing to get recast as Cara Dune.
Oh, really? Not for money? No one's recasting it.
I'm sure she wants money too.
Well, they're not going to win.
She somehow thinks that she can sue them, and they'll put her back in the show.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, you're not obligated to use a character at any point.
But they did say they didn't like the way she
I know that,
handled herself. And first of all, let's just back up for a second. The only reason Elon Musk and X are helping anyone is because Disney pulled their advertising because they don't like the environment of X.
Of course they did. But also, Disney has more lawyers than anybody in entertainment, or at least historically has. So there is no way she had a contract that said she could do whatever the hell she wanted, and there was going to be no consequence.
Well, here to me, and again, who knows what really went on, but the icing on the cake for me is she's claiming... where's the quote here? She's saying that while Lucasfilm claims that they fired her over her statements, she thinks it's only because she was a woman, and that male co-stars have made similarly offensive posts and that they were ignored. So she's pulling out they targeted me because I'm a woman thing, which I think that media companies have gone after men and women who have done things that breach their contracts. I don't think this is because she was a woman.
Yeah.
Personally, that's, what do I know? But
so the fact that they hired Gunn back, does that work in her favor? Or, that was their choice.
Yeah.
Everything's their choice to hire or not hire somebody.
That's what I'm saying. But they did fire him over the same thing, even though his stuff was more historical. So, so that they could, I don't know.
The whole thing just seems weird to me. Like, if you want to sue them and if you think that they've wronged you, sue them. But the part where she thinks she's going to get her part back and they're going to recast her, it just, to me, seems misguided.
Yeah, true.
No, this is her settlement. That's what she's looking for. But this makes her sound more,
Finish out your Star Wars, Barry.
Yeah, so the other thing, on a more positive note, we actually have a date now for this Mandalorian and Grogu movie, May 22nd, 2026.
Oh, my God.
According to Bob Iger in their earnings call.
That's like forever from now. The question is, and I know somebody asked Filoni and he didn't answer, will there be a season 4 Mandalorian before that?
Yeah, my guess is no. If they're going to be focused on making a movie,
he didn't necessarily write off season 4.
Yeah, because he doesn't want people to do the math and realize that they're.
But that's it's more than 2 years.
More than 2 years. Okay, so you have what's the other thing in addition to Ahsoka that's happening in this time frame?
The Acolyte and what's it called? Skeleton Crew.
Wait, they're all happening in the same thing?
Oh no! You mean in the same time?
In the same time.
Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Mandalorian are all in the same, and Skeleton Crew are all in the same.
Others?
Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew.
Oh, unless they throw the old Mando in Skeleton Crew.
That's what I'm saying. I bet we're gonna see, if we see another season of Ahsoka and in Skeleton Crew, they're gonna advance those characters, or. They have committed to a season 2 of Ahsoka. They've told us we're getting it. They just didn't say when.
But I can't see. They can't go what will wind up being more than 2.5 years without some Mando something. That just is not smart.
Seems unlikely. I agree with you.
One kid's going to grow out of his freaking Grogu pajamas and never care about the character again. You gotta keep it going.
Right. So the other 2 dates that they threw out, and they haven't said what's on them yet, but December 2026 is another Star Wars movie.
That's the Rey movie, I bet.
Which is probably the Rey movie. 2 movies in 2026, and December 17th, 2027 is another Star Wars movie.
That's the one the 3 of us are directing.
I'm
not confirming it, but I'm suggesting.
Very quick. No, Barry gets fired. You walk away, and I'll be committed to something else.
We may all be signed on at some point between now and then, but we'll all be fired before that ever happens.
Something's going to happen. It's like, there'll be a public announcement any day now, people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a Star Wars update for this part of the show. Bet there'll be some Star Wars once Tom comes on.
Yeah, and Ewan McGregor did say he wants to do Obi-Wan season 2.
Samuel L. Jackson came out and said that his character's not dead and he wants a TV show. They all want TV shows.
You got enough money, buddy. Not that Ewan McGregor does. We probably have. I'm sure he has more than Ewan McGregor. Get over yourself, Todd. What do you got?
So.
Okay, so there's actually an interesting article in what was it? It was in the Wrap on the battle to make a $6 million Man movie, and how it's basically gone on since the 90s. But
we were attached to it in the late 90s.
Wasn't Mark Wahlberg attached to it at one point?
We were attached after that.
He's, despite being in his 50s, he's 52. He still wants to do this, and it's just
he's in shape enough and looks good enough to do it, but he's too short.
I like Mark Wahlberg and I like his movies, but there's a little too much. I don't want to use the word baggage.
No, there's too much Mark Wahlberg.
There's too much. Ryan Gosling, he could do everything. If he's doing the Fall Guy was the other.
The Fall Guy, yeah.
Which seems ridiculous. I will totally watch it. I don't know if I'll see it in the movie theater.
Yeah. Oh, I know I won't see it in the movie theater.
But it looks like fun.
Anyway, okay, so the question is, should they just let it die?
No.
At this point, I mean, it's 50 years since the show.
So what?
It's like, I love it. I've always loved it. It was crazy popular. They've rebooted a ton of things since then. And, from that era, so here's the question. This isn't from the article, but do you set it in the 70s or do you make it the $6 billion Man?
You set it in the 70s if it's a comedy. You don't. That's the only way that works. Like Starsky and Hutch, it seemed like that was, although that was just a total farce. They were still. I think it was modern times, yet they were wearing bell bottoms. I don't know.
I almost don't. I would almost rather see if there's an angle they could come at it with to make it more serious than that Starsky and Hutch movie, because that was.
Yes, I'd rather see the $6 billion Man.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I would rather see the $6 billion Man, and I think, I think you can make the technology very believable now. But it's got to be somebody else. It's got to be somebody.
It's not him. It could be Glenn Powell from Twisters.
You know what?
It could be.
Glenn Powell would actually be very good.
He seems a little cocky for my taste. I don't know.
But
if I like
so
that
was Lee Majors. I mean, that's.
Well, he's married to Farrah Fawcett. We expect.
Well,
Wouldn't you be?
Comes with the territory. But I'm saying I think he could do that. There's plenty of people that could do this.
They need to remake $6 Million Man and Logan's Run. Those are the things.
Agree on both. We've been saying it for 10 years. Come on, make it happen.
Okay, we'll do it ourselves.
Yeah,
we might have
Barry,
to.
go get the rights.
That's it.
Okay, I'm on it.
Is it in the public domain yet? We'll make a.
We need like another 50 years for that.
We can make a Mickey Mouse movie.
I'm gonna say, yeah. So,
any other random? What did I have? Anything else?
I had something, but if anybody else has anything else, they can go first.
Did you guys watch this Christopher Reeve Superman documentary?
not yet.
No.
I gotta watch that. I want to watch that.
Where is it?
I don't know. I just saw it because
okay.
there was the whole thing about there's these Superman storyboards that they're up for sale or auction or something that I don't think they were sort of known about. They're in some guy's collection and he's selling them. But it did mention this documentary. But yeah, I'd like to watch that. Do you have something else?
Yeah, two more very quick things. Discovery Season 5 premiere has a date, April 4th. I don't know if anybody's excited about it, but
I'm busy
we have to see it through to the end, right?
I'm busy that day.
Yeah, well, so that, and I did want to just mention, if the intro to this week's show sounded different to anybody at all, I have played all the instruments and unfortunately sang that song now for 10 years. And I've re-recorded it a few times, but the one thing I never was able to do was do the drums live. I've always had the drums be a drum machine, or I program the drums. So I have officially re-recorded the drum parts. That's me playing now. So, like it or not, the entire intro is now me.
It's an
all me.
clone band.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. Good.
So,
Sounds
you
good.
know,
Sounds good.
yeah, well, I bought the drums when COVID started, and I think I've gotten just good enough now to be able to play that intro on the drums. So
That's great.
That's cool. Well, you didn't, when you first put the drums in, did you just get a drum machine or a drum whatever and just
the
let it
very
play its
first
own
version,
thing?
going back 10 years, I programmed the drums. But as technology has evolved, the software I use for recording music has AI drummers. So for the last 5 years, the drummer in there was an AI drummer that I did all the guitars and bass and everything, and then I let it write its own drum part.
And so you played the drum part that the AI drum played.
For the most part,
played.
I redid it the way the AI drummer did it.
Yeah, I
but
know,
changed
that's
a
funny.
few of
It's
the
very
drum
meta.
fills. Yeah, it's a little different.
Yeah. You know who's not different? Fanboy Collectibles. No, they are different.
They are
But they're
different.
better
They're
than all
better than
those other
everybody.
crappy stores. Don't go to those crappy stores. You know who they are. Fanboy Collectibles. Let me tell you something. There is no shortage of pops. If you want Mafia pops, they've got The Godfather and Goodfellas. There's Deadpool pops. There's Galaxy Quest pops, all up for either sale or pre-order as we speak. So check those out. So Toys, which we've heard about before.
Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 different things for now.
They've got a whole series of Speedster figures.
Speedster figures.
Very cool.
Fill in who you think they are in your own mind, but looks like mostly from the TV show.
They've actually, this is because they made a Barry figure earlier.
I was thinking the same
This is like
thing.
future Barry, and then like I said, yeah. So, but no, they look good.
The yellow one looks really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool ones.
I've got a not Nightwing that they made, and I've got a not Daredevil that they made, and they're good.
So check all that stuff
better than
out.
So-so.
Better than So-so. They're
Interesting that they gave themselves that name, because I think they're better.
It means something else.
It means something else entirely.
Soo-soo.
Yeah.
But Soo-soo, S-O-O.
Yeah.
Anyway, check those things out. There's of course Hot Toys and Sideshow and Kotobukiya and Hasbro and all the stuff you want. They should carry Regal Robot, but they don't. Maybe we can put that.
We can talk to a guy about that.
We can talk to a guy about that. But check them all out. Fanboycollectibles.com. Check them out there online or their store in Newtown, Connecticut. Tell them the Regular Joe sent you. All righty, joined by our pal, friend of the show, Tom Spina. Welcome, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
How you doing? Thank you for having me on yet again.
Always a pleasure. And I know Barry has been afraid to talk about his trips to San Francisco with you. He's mentioned them briefly. Now he may have permission to say some things.
Rightly afraid, yes.
Yeah.
That's
I have a healthy respect and fear.
That's correct.
Of breaching my NDA.
You don't want to wind up in the Skywalker Ranch jail like Sheldon and Leonard.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah, no. He has a healthy fear of not being asked back, I think.
Yeah, you don't want that.
But luckily, so far, we brought him back, once. So, we went and brought him back again. So that probably says something.
They didn't say. They haven't caught on.
It means all the other people on the list couldn't go. And then I was the last one.
Listen, we got to that front gate. They could have told us okay, Tom, Rob, you guys come in. Leave that other guy out.
I was waiting for the THX guys to come out with those sticks to zap.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always thought those sticks looked like that shot, the promo shot of the Dewback where he's got that long lance. It always reminds me of the sticks from THX. It's just look, Lucas really liked that thing, didn't he?
He likes sticks.
Pokers, yeah. He's got a thing for
pokey
pokers.
sticks.
Right, the big pokey stick, exactly.
So let's weave this all together. So Tom's got a release coming out that was announced this week.
Yes. It's been teased for a little while.
Yeah, we had it on our sites and stuff. So
thank you for that.
there's a Wampa coming out. And then, but you guys, so let's why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and then maybe we'll put that back to you guys examine the Wampa at the archives. I'm allowed to say that.
Who said Wampa? No.
And I say examined is a good word.
Yes, it really is.
So why don't you tell us about all that stuff and say what you could say?
To start, so February 20th, we are opening up pre-orders for our 1-to-1 replica of the puppet Wampa that Phil Tippett made for Empire Strikes Back. So in Empire, they shot a bunch of stuff with Des Webb in a 10-foot tall costume and giant stilts in the snow and on set. And he couldn't really walk and he couldn't really move. And it looked a little goofy. And the head was sort of pitiable and not real ferocious looking. And, Ken Ralston and John Berg and Phil Tippett. Ken actually had a great quote in John Rinsler's Making of Empire Strikes Back book, where he kind of said, like, we were feeling full of ourselves and said, we're not going to let that dumb thing be in our movie. So the result there was, George kind of said, well, if you think you can do better and you can do it fast, go ahead. And so Phil built a small puppet. And so the first time you see the Wampa in the movie, and this is for the special edition and the regular, when Luke is there and he's on the Tauntaun, he goes like, what's the matter, girl? You smell something? And the Wampa pops up, attacks Luke, pops up again, attacks the Tauntaun. Those two face close-ups are Phil's puppet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's freaking amazing. And I've been obsessed with it for decades. And when I went to the archives the first time, this is now, 13, 14 years ago, whatever that was, that Wampa was like top 2 or 3 things I wanted to see there. And so, and very luckily it was there. It wasn't on tour or anything like that. And so like to have seen it then and to continue to see it on subsequent visits and then to have it pulled for us for research on 3 different visits, we got very, very, very in deep on this Wampa. And the result is, luckily, I like to think, a really, really good replica of it. And something that when you look at it, as someone like me who's seen the real one, you get that same feeling that you get when you look at the real one, when you look at ours. And like, that's, for me, the absolute ultimate that we're going for in every replica that we do. It's like, I want it to feel like it. Like, I want to be able to like walk in a room, turn around, and then look at it fresh and just go like, oh yeah, that's that feeling I felt when we walked into the archives and saw it out on the table waiting for us. So yeah, that comes out on the 20th. We have 2 different editions. One is a signature edition with Phil Tippett, who made it and performed it. And then the other is what we're calling our legacy edition, where Phil Tippett sketched individual hand-drawn Wampa sketches, 100 of them, all different. And everybody who gets one from that legacy edition gets a signed metal plaque with a framed original piece of art from Phil Tippett that he drew by hand. And we did the same thing with Phil's Rancor a few months back, and it sold out in 10 minutes. Everybody went nuts for it. So we decided let's do that again and give everybody something cool with this one. So that's the story on what's coming out. But to get there was a little more complicated.
Yeah, well,
as it always is.
And I have now seen the real one, and I've seen the pictures of the one that you're releasing, and yeah, I mean, other than it looking a little bit newer, maybe is the best way to say it, a little less, ragged from 40 dust. Years of dust. It looks spot on. I mean, it's
and what's the size of? They're both the same size, right?
They're both the same size. So we did it 1-to-1 to the puppet. It's about, so I'll go by width. It's about the base that we put ours on is 19 1/4 inches wide. The puppet underneath is actually a little narrower, but with all the hair and stuff, he fluffs out to about 18 inches wide. It's roughly 13 inches tall on the base. The original, and that puts it at about 12 1/4 inches, I guess, or 12 inches without the base. The original in the configuration that it is at the archives, is also about 12 inches tall.
Mhm.
And the reason I say that is because the way the original is built, it has a long flap of fur in the front. And when they made the shot for the movie, they put it on a high sort of shelf and just let the fur dangle in the front in case anything showed below
the
camera. But when displayed as like a bust, it sits at about 12 inches tall. So that's what we did on ours. It's interesting. I remember the first time seeing it being shocked how small it was, because in my mind it was huge on film.
Sure.
You know? And even knowing it was a puppet, having seen like pictures of it in the Chronicles and in the From Star Wars to Indiana Jones, the Best of the Lucasfilm Archives book, it always felt a little bigger to me. And I'd even made a replica of it for myself 25 years ago. You know, I made it before I even moved to this house. So it's got to be at least 25 years now. And I was oversized probably by about 10-15%. But I was pretty close. And considering I had never seen the real one at that point, I felt pretty good about it.
There you go. Yeah.
What I love too, in the sort of lead up to you releasing it, you've been posting a lot of stuff on social media and pulling the shots of them filming that scene, which was like filmed in the parking lot at ILM. They just found a spot where there was nothing but sky, and they just shot it. I mean, it's amazing when you cut that into the movie that it fits and feels like it's in Hoth. But
and when you look at them shooting it, so like, in the shot, you just see sky behind them. When you look at them shooting it, there's green grass, there's rolling green hills with bushes on them, there's buildings and houses, you know, all of this stuff. And is like, they're literally just in the parking lot outside of probably the old Kerner building or whatever at the time. And it's just that simple ingenuity of the time, right? You know, it's like, all right, we need some sky. It's like, do we paint a backdrop? Do we blue screen it in? And somebody goes like, there's sky outside.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, just point the camera up so we don't see anything.
But it has that scale because they shot it so close up that, you know, it just fills the whole frame.
And in talking to Phil, I mean, so you and I know this from looking at it, but in talking to Phil, he talked about how the mechanism was on that and how he made sure that, you know, when you push the thing forward and the torso tilted, that the head came up so that it wasn't just leaning towards you, it lunged at you, you know, and the head came up and towards you as that body leaned forward. And when you look in the movie, especially the second shot, so the first shot, it just sort of pops up and the mouth opens. The second shot, the body is leaned way forward and the head is up, so it looks like it's real kind of hunched and ready to pounce. And then they move it in closer to camera and lift the head even higher as it goes. And it gives this real sense of like lunging. And it's a ridiculously simple mechanism the way they made it. Like it's literally like there's a chunk of plywood in it and a door hinge, you know.
Oh, really?
Oh
my God.
And then
That's
there's a couple of pieces of plywood with pivot for the head, and then there's a bar for the head that you can move. There's a cable for the mount, cable
aluminum and machined and all this stuff.
No, something with a
right,
it's sophisticated than that.
That's
the best kind of stuff.
To hear Phil say it, you know, he built this in like a day. You know,
was the face or something, or the head sculpted
it's fabricated. So unlike where you would do a clay sculpt and then make a mold and then cast it, the head was built up over an armature that was built around, or like a little underskull that looked like it was made for like a little werewolf or something like that. I don't know if that was something he had. I know he said that he was using, you know, he's using carnivore taxidermy teeth, not real teeth, but like, you know, the plastic fake teeth
that they put in there,
taxidermy stuff, and the taxidermy tongue. And it's funny. I mean, the first time I saw the thing up close, the tongue immediately, if anybody's ever worked with that stuff, goes, oh, okay, that's, you know, that's your typical kind of like snarl tongue from a taxidermy set. And it's probably, you know, some kind of either fox or a small dog or something like that. It's smaller than a werewolf, not a werewolf, or a wolf.
Smaller than a werewolf.
Not a lot of those stuffed anymore, really.
It's a Chihuahua mouth.
Right. It's bigger than a Chihuahua, but
I'm just really glad
bigger
to
than
hear.
a Chihuahua, smaller than a werewolf. But so he had that, and it's very, you know, it's a narrow presentation, but the Wampa's got this wide face.
Yeah.
So he built up over that to widen the face, and then he used there's a technique called scumbling that the Henson people use, and they used it a lot on some of the Jurassic Park stuff. Beth Hathaway would do it to press textures into the big dinosaurs, where you whip up foam latex, you put it on, you let it gel, and then before it kicks, you push the textures into it, and then you bake it. So there's no mold. You've just kind of built it up. That's what's happening with this. And it must have been a really dense mix of foam because it's held up amazingly. I was actually kind of surprised when he said that, because I had always assumed it was slip latex and cotton, which I'm sure there's a bunch of that on there because I do see some of that. But, he had said the bulk of it was done with that just, pressed texture, foam latex buildup. And then over that, it's, kind of acrylic faux fur and couch foam to bulk out the shape of it, just polyurethane foam. And then, there you go. You had your simple mechanisms, little latex ears he built, probably just slip latex brushed up. I think I'm pretty sure we saw some couch foam coming through some of the areas on that. So my guess is those were thin pieces of couch foam that he brushed over or dipped. But anyway, long story short, all fabricated, not a lot of sculpting, and done very, very quickly.
That's great.
One of the things that it really impressed me, and if I say too much, Tom, stop me, but the puppet itself in the state that it's in the archives is a little almost hunched over.
Yeah. But
if you properly, with the right protections, reach back and activate the lever in the back, just a half an inch, it comes to life. And that's the pose that your replica is in. It's not the state that it is resting on a shelf. It's more the, but just a little bit of pressure on that rod in the back, and the thing comes to life. It's amazing.
And we're lucky that obviously we have to be super careful with this stuff. And usually, you see a puppet in the archives, you are not going to manipulate it in any way. But because of the way this was built and the fact of, the pivot on there and was not going to move anything that was foam or latex, it was just going to flex that fabric a little bit. We were able to give it just a little lift and then put a wedge so that it would hold its place. And it helped us in some of the examining. But it also, it gives you that impression of like, oh, okay, that's where that head's supposed to be. Because in its neutral state at the archives, it's, without any hand pressure on it, it just kind of relaxes itself and the head slumps forward a little bit. Still pretty bitchin', even.
Oh,
that.
No doubt.
It definitely is a nice thing to see it.
Just that little bit of motion to get the head up a little bit, and it literally comes to life. And it's that, oh my God, that's the Wampa from that scene.
And we opened the mouth on ours a little more than the neutral state of the mouth too, although, we didn't do like a big roar or something like that. We didn't want to make this too showy. We didn't want it to feel like it's a, just a statue of this thing. We want it to feel like a prop replica. We want you to feel like you've just got the prop on your shelf, not necessarily that, it's some crazy dynamic statue thing. And it is a static replica. So, we did have to achieve like a point where we're like, okay, this is the pose, this is the head pose, this is how much mouth it's going to get, that kind of thing. Phil talked about, one of the things that grabbed me about this thing was the eyes. And Phil talked about that, just basically saying, John Berg had a box of eyeballs from like old animal eyes and taxidermy eyes, and he just grabbed some out of there and slapped them in. And he made a really cool choice because everybody just assumes they're black eyes in there, just jet black glass or whatever. And they're actually this really great old style taxidermy eye. It's an animal eye that looks like an amber sclera with a black iris and a bright blue pupil, like almost reflective blue pupil. It's really unusual. And when we discovered it by accident the first time we were examining the thing, I was trying to, this goes back about 5 years now. And I was trying to measure the size of the eye, the size of the iris, et cetera. And I assumed I was just going to go in and measure the overall size of the eye and guesstimate that based on curvature and stuff, because I'm thinking this is just going to be a solid glass black eye. And then we put a flashlight right on it, and it was just like, whoa, what is that? And it genuinely, it's hard to photograph. It's almost impossible to photograph.
It was really hard to try to photograph that.
And it's even hard to see. And like, we spent so much time. It was like me, and I think the first trip, it was me and Gordon Tarpley, might have been Brian Lewis, and maybe Jeff Winkle was with us. And we were like, we're going back and forth, each of us with a flashlight. And we're like, we had a little sketch paper, and we're like trying to draw what we're seeing. We're like, all right, I think it might be black floating in amber. And that's like, no, I see blue. All right, so is it a blue iris with a black pupil? No, I think it's a reverse. And we just each kind of like gave our impression of what we saw until we really narrowed it down. And then we just got in there with a phone camera, because we could get closer with that, and bright light, and just shot like 30 different pictures of the eyeball, trying to capture it. And, eventually came back to New York, and we're going through all the photos, and we're like, we had a few that really showed it. And then I started hunting for like, okay, these are not eyes he made for this, so this has to be a thing. And turned out, yeah, it's an old style taxidermy thing. And there's a company that we work with on eyeballs and teeth and jaws and stuff. And they knew that style as well, and they were able to replicate them for us for the run. So we actually got,
that's cool.
200 plus sets of these eyeballs going.
So those in the replica, those are parts that are put into something. They're not all sculpted and painted.
Exactly. When we're doing our assembly on the replica, we paint the face first, and then we install the eyes from the back, and then the face gets assembled on the rest of it.
Oh, that's cool.
It's actually, it's not the easy way to do that. The easy way would be to put it all in one mold and just go. But this way allows us to get those in there, and it's cool because now I'm hoping someday someone's going to have this thing at their house and just go like, oh man, it's really cool. And then they put somebody's going to put a flashlight on this and have no idea what those eyes look like until
that's awesome. That. Yeah.
And they're going to be like, oh crap, what is that?
And having been there helping with research, this is the level of detail and scrutiny that goes into this stuff. It's unbelievable. Like Tom does not rest until he gets it right. And I think, as a testament of that, do you want to talk about the teeth, Tom, and the Wampa? Because I don't know. Did we spend 2 days trying to count the teeth in the actual pup?
Yeah. And what was funny is we already had. So by the time Barry came in on this trip, we had seen it 2 times before. The first time was before we were doing scans. And we actually, I think we did have some scanning going that trip, but we weren't doing it on that piece. We weren't sure we could with everything that was going on with it. But so the first time we saw it, we photographed the heck out of it. We measured the heck out of it. We investigated whatever we could without, getting too close to it, basically. We checked things like the type of fur, the fur length, the measurements off of every single part of this thing. Because we didn't know that someday in the future we were going to have a great laser scan of it. The second trip back, we scanned it and we did some color matching and things like that. But really, it was part of a long list of scans we were doing that second trip. So this trip was especially good because we had already developed the scan and done a first draft output of the thing at full scale and learned a lot doing that. But having already done that and now going back and seeing the real thing, it's almost like, I'm trying to think of the comparison. It'd be like if you had never seen a car before, and then you went and examined a car, you would have one impression of it. But if you had, then subsequently gone and built a car and then gone back and looked at that first car again, you'd be looking at it with new eyes and you would see stuff that you wouldn't have picked up on before. And so this trip was really, really good for that. And the teeth are a great example because the scan can only go so deep, and it's the way the thing is posed at the archives. It's really tough to see inside that mouth, and so we were trying to basically like prove out stuff we had done on our replica so far, where we were like, okay, we've got these teeth this way, and this is here, and now we couldn't quite see behind here in the scan. So what's back there? And we were flashlights and photos and cameras and sticking cameras in his mouth and iPhones in his mouth and stuff like that, trying to get in there. And a friend of ours does some work on some of their models, and happened to have his kit there, and was very luckily had an endoscopy kit.
Well, we started out saying, what if we had a dental mirror? So we
that's
actually
true,
tried using a dental mirror first.
Which did help. And we took a lot of pictures in the dental mirror, and we were able to get back there. And like, literally, like, we're like Wampa dentists in here. Like, like the two of us with gloves on and like,
But
like
when he says pictures in the dental mirror, what he means is a dental mirror in the thing's mouth, and we're trying to take pictures of the mirror with a camera.
Right. And then but then what we're showing is backwards, and it's tough to keep track what's what. But so then we lucked out where this guy had a boroscope, an endoscope there, and it was a really nice tiny camera with lights on it that could was on a flexible rod, and so we were able to take that and go into the mouth and really track a bunch of stuff that just was completely invisible to anybody looking in. And of course, the moral of the story is the irony of the story is that if you couldn't see it on the original, you're not going to be able to see it on ours.
That doesn't matter, though.
What are we doing it for?
Nobody would ever know if it was wrong.
You know it's there.
Right. Exactly.
Nobody would ever know it's wrong, but Tom was not going to stop until.
But we had to know it was right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's like we had come so far.
Well, and if you're going to go to that level of detail, you might as well make sure it's right, and then people know like that's how far you're willing to go to make sure this stuff is accurate.
Yeah.
Next time you go, Barry, I'll loan you. I have one of those cameras. I'll loan it to you.
Yeah, we picked one up for the shop as soon as we got back.
Yeah,
I was
we assumed these things were thousands of dollars, and we looked it up on Amazon, and we're like,
$50.
$50.
Yeah.
I think I bought one. I had a block in my drain pipe, and I thought there was like a tennis ball in there, so I bought one to dig in there.
Also good for home endoscopies.
Yeah, I do that.
True. Yeah.
I'm not paying for another colonoscopy. I'm doing them myself.
That's right. I had a little too much acid reflux these days. Hold on.
Just send some iPhone pictures to your doctor and say, "What do you think of that?"
Does this look infected?
Yeah.
How did you get that picture?
Is that a polyp?
Yeah. But yeah, so we did that to a Wampa, and it was pretty awesome, to say the least. And it really, it makes me feel that much better about what we're doing. Like you said, it's minor stuff, but to know that that's in there, and honestly, even just to freshen up on this thing after, it's like we'd seen it a while back, we saw it again, and now we're seeing it again after, it's like seeing the car after building the car. All of a sudden, just looking at the fur fresh and looking at the distressing on it, and the way that some of the stuff is laid up on the face, and how much of the horns are peeking out and not peeking out and stuff like that, really did give us a great sense of what's going on with the piece. And when I came back into the studio, we were a little behind where we wanted to be in terms of getting that thing out. But I came back to the studio, and I scrapped the paint we were doing. I had our digital guy rework the teeth, and then we had to re-output a bunch of parts. We had to test a few things. And then it was, just getting in, reworking the paint, redoing how we were doing the hair, and then laying all that up, and basically, in the last couple of weeks, knocking out a good handful of these so that we have our our approval samples, and then some samples to go to people who are going to be doing some reviews for us. And that stuff all actually was shipping out today. So it's been a crazy couple of weeks getting those going, and also getting, our photos done and getting all the website stuff going. And, it's and all the social too. It's amazing how much work a single product launch is, especially when you're talking about, there's all the complexity of making the product, but then there's all the complexity of releasing it, which is a totally different animal.
Right. Well, and I know you sent me a picture, I don't know, 2 weeks ago of the first put together without the distressing, without the ice and snow on it, and it looked amazing. But then you sent me the picture the other day of the final with the ice chunks on it.
What's with? So I was looking at the pictures. What's in the fur? So how does that look like? It's been frozen out there.
Yeah, it's basically. I'll go as far as to say this. It's the same thing Phil did on the original.
Okay, cool. So there is a whole lot of sort of
there's like
snow effect or
just
something.
Literal stuff in the fur that looks like snow effects, and it's different than what we do on our big tauntauns, which get this sort of faux snow approach. Which is equally cool, but this was really about matching what Phil did.
That's awesome.
Not just saying like, let's make this look snowy, which we could do, but like, how do we make this look like that melted, drizzled ice?
Yeah. And if you haven't seen the pictures, they're definitely on regalrobot.com. They're on our Instagram and places. So check it. There's literally a picture, at least in the press release, of here's them filming the puppet, and here's the Regal Robot release, and it's like identical.
They look identical.
Yeah,
that was the point I was driving to. Is when you sent me the picture with the ice and everything on it, it looked exactly like what we saw in the archives, which is just amazing.
So I'll have a funny story. Christian is our digital guy at the shop, and I've just explained how I tortured him going back and forth on this thing to get it right, and over we were making all these changes along the way. And even prior to us going back, we did a lot of development on this, test prints and going like, okay, how does this look? Does this feel right, etc. The day after I finished the first prototype, and I did the ice effects on it, and I just, with my iPhone, just shot a quick picture of the mouth just to see like, okay, how does this read on camera? And I got back to my computer, and I pulled it up on the screen, and I was just like, Christian, you got to see this. And he comes in, and his face went white because he looked at the screen and assumed it was a picture that we took at the archives, and that I had just discovered a new tooth or something I was going to make him do. And and I was like, no, that's ours. And he's like, oh man, we did this. And I was like, yeah, like, good job.
Well, I'm glad awesome. It's, I guess by the time when this show goes live, it'll be going up for sale a few days later. So
yeah, it'll be the next Tuesday, and the product pages should be live. So anybody who's listening, go to regalrobot.com, and if you just hit the news page, that'll show you the latest stuff, and it'll give you a link if you want to look at the product pages and learn more about them. And it's going to be real interesting. We've had already, the feedback's been overwhelmingly positive on this. So that's been really, really nice. And I'm excited to see how many people want to bring them home.
I'll bet it'll sell out in an hour or two. That's my guess.
You might not be wrong. Yeah. I do terribly at guessing that stuff. It seems anytime I think something is going to last a week, it goes out in like 5 minutes. And anytime I think it's going to go 5 minutes, it takes a few days. Like I just, but my guess is the Legacy Edition, if nothing else, will sell out pretty quickly. I think the Signature Edition might last a little longer. It's a high ticket item. There's even on Signature, there's only 125 pieces. Like that's not a crazy amount of Wampas out there. So
we'll see. I can't think of anything like this that's ever been done before. I mean, maybe if you start to think about your Chewbacca busts, but this is just there's been a lot of Chewbacca stuff made. Your busts are incredible, but I don't think there's been a whole lot of Wampa stuff, and this is like as good as it gets.
Wampa's a small market.
Dave knows. Dave
But
knows.
my son was deathly afraid of the Wampa when I first made him watch Star Wars when he was 5. And he was tortured by it. But that doesn't. We don't give up in this house. You don't be tortured by Star Wars. So
this is not how this
I
works.
started buying him Wampa stuff, and he started embracing it. Now he's got like a wall of Wampa stuff.
There's a room full of Wampa merch.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I hope he doesn't see this because I'm not buying it for him.
That's right.
No offense. I'll buy it for myself first.
There's the regular Joe's repeat guest discount, right?
There you go.
That's right. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
It is one of those things where maybe the Wampa is an underserved market. I don't know.
There's not a lot. I mean,
it's a tough thing to even get right as a toy, it seems.
Oh yeah, and if you, I mean, on this one shelf, there's probably 50 Wampa things. They all look completely different.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone's interpreted as like this goofy
Some
fun
of them
monster,
look more like the Abominable Snowman than they
or
look like the Wampa.
or this super menacing monster, more goofy than menacing.
Yeah.
Well, the special editions helped that, right? Because in the original release of the movie, you didn't even see him as much as you see him now with that insert shot of the full body Wampa. But
that was filmed later.
What surprised me the most was on the real puppet, the horns are pretty obscured by fur. Like they're not prominent at all, but they're there.
But some of them have these big horns.
Yeah.
So the freeborn one had these kind of almost like wood grain looking horns. I think they're actually carved out of balsa wood that are very prominent. And then when Phil did his, he really masked off the horns in the hair. And then when they went back and did the special edition, they based the face on Phil's and even the horns, but they exposed the horns again. So when you see it first attack Luke, the horns are all covered up. And then when you see Luke in the cave with it, for the special edition insert shots, it's got these big black horns sticking out, and it's different, but
it's kind of kicking back in the cave. He's just a little more casual look to him, That's
right. Yeah, he pulls his hair back over.
That's it. Yeah.
That's when he's eating the tauntaun. We assume it's the tauntaun, right? That he's eating.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing that freaked Mark out. He's like, "Oh, that meat! He's eating that meat." He would freak him out. I'm like, "Why do you get that?"
Just like.
No, I know the sign you guys put out a while ago.
Oh yeah,
talks about the Wampas somewhere in the base.
In the base.
Did they ever film multiple Wampas anywhere?
So they only ever really made one full costume.
Yeah.
They modified the head from the Luke Wampa to have these kind of bug-looking eyes, like kind of insect eyes, and no horns, or different horns that you can't see for whatever reason. And that was the one they had attacking the base. There were supposed to be multiple of them, but they're kind of pretending that one, I guess they were trying to shoot it in a way that you would think it was multiples. That scene, the idea is that the rebels managed to back them into one room and close the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, which is funny because in the idea of them is that they can travel through snow and ice. And that's how he got the jump on Luke, was like he popped up out of the snow. That's at least the base is made out of the novel canon. I don't know if it still is canon, but you trapped them in a room that's made out of snow and ice. Like, I don't know if this is going to work. And then they put that warning sign on it. And when they're running to get to the Falcon, 3PO stops, finds the warning sign and pulls it down so that when they go away, the stormtroopers come by and go like, "Oh, what's in this room?"
Yeah.
And they open it and just the arm comes out and just houses the one guy and just yanks him into the room. And the guy behind him is just like, "Oh, Dave," and then hits the button and the door closes. And then almost immediately Vader walks up. And they just kind of look at him. They don't shrug, but they could have. They're just like, I don't know. It's a good thing they didn't put it in the movie. But
and I was just going to say that there's footage of that out there on the internet. So if we're talking about this and you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Google it, because it's worth seeing as an outtake. But it's
like Wampa cutscenes or Wampa outtakes or something like that. I'm sure. Yeah, I've seen them on YouTube too. And it's
a good thing it didn't make it into
one
the
of the
movie,
releases.
They need to go to like the Wampa home planet, and he's got his wife and his kid and his perverted grandfather.
Getting together for Frozen Day or something.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, there was a Robot Chicken episode where Luke pulls up to like a space gas station with his X-Wing, and then like the Wampa pulls up in this real rickety looking vehicle, and he's only got the one arm, and he gets out. And he's trying to do things, and he keeps dropping stuff, and he's cursing. And it's just these pathetic and sad. And Luke is hiding. He's like, "Oh no, it's him! I can't believe it!" And then he winds up. I think he's on the wrong side of the gas tank, so he's got to get back into the car, and then he's got to turn around. By the time he turns around, somebody else is pulled into the spot, and then Luke is flying away, and they make eye contact, and it's this really sad eye contact as Luke flies away. It's super awkward, but actually really funny. And that's another thing you should probably look up on YouTube if you're listening.
Yeah. That's
so
awesome.
Wampa, it's awesome. Everybody should check it out.
Check it out.
So yeah, this last trip to the archives was cool. I was actually really glad for Barry that we as friends magnanimously let him go. No, I'm sure you were glad for this too, but there are two sides to the archives. There's actually a couple of different things in the building, but the two main areas, and ostensibly it's kind of props and costumes, but it's not quite a hard line. And it was nice this time. So the last time we were there, we were set on the prop side, and Barry was very limited to just that prop side that last time, and got to look around a little bit. But this time we were on the costume side, which is a whole different experience. And I was really glad, because it's like I actually felt bad the first trip that you didn't get to go to the costume side, because the costume side is amazing.
Yeah, and you felt bad, and I appreciated that. But what I saw the first trip blew my mind anyway, so it was amazing. But you're right. Get it? I was so happy when we saw where we were going to be this time that I was going to get to hopefully see, the rest of it and get the full experience. And we did.
Yeah. Yeah. Did not disappoint. So how does it feel now? Do you understand my disappointment for you now that you've seen this side?
Totally. And what's amazing is I saw a lot this trip, but I still didn't see everything that was there.
Yeah.
On that side. And which is still okay. I mean, I always go into these. I've gone now twice. Both times I've gone into it saying, if I see nothing, I was there, and that's incredible into of itself. Yeah. But yeah, I've gotten to see amazing things on both trips, and the things on the costume side are so different from the things on the other side, and equally amazing. So
a lot of helmets. A lot of things like that are very kind of out and accessible for viewing and things like that, and then the racks of costumes, and going through the different stuff from both Indiana Jones and Star Wars and whatever.
Yeah, we had some occasion to look at some of what was in some of those costume racks, and
they're all in like garment bags and stuff, or they're all protected, and
they're in these sort of protective racks. They call it like kind of like the compactor racks, like you would have tape storage in.
Yeah.
So they're kept closed, so they're good that way. But the but yeah, you can roll them open, and they're all on racks. Most of the stuff isn't in bags, so you can get a pretty good look at the stuff as you go through.
Can we say definitively that Hans Hoth jacket, what color it is?
Oh, we absolutely. It is freaking brown.
It's brown.
That's his parka, right? His parka.
Yeah.
His parka.
Yeah.
It is brown.
I think that was something I even said as we were walking through the racks. I was like, Barry, look at this brown jacket.
But that was the thing. Who got it right? Hot Toys got it right. Didn't they?
Hot Toys hasn't made one yet. But
so who?
Hasbro got it wrong, and it's been proliferated.
Was it Sideshow?
They eventually did. Hasbro eventually, on the small scale one, did eventually make a kind of grayish brown version of it.
What about his Bespin? Is it? I guess it's Bespin jacket. Is that what you call it?
That's blue.
Yeah, the Bespin jacket's like a navy blue. Yeah.
No, yeah. Some people it will win.
I just saw that the other day on a YouTube video.
It looked gray.
Lopez's house.
Yeah, it's like a dark navy blue, but it's like a desaturated blue, but it is definitely blue. I've gotten to see that one up close too.
No,
it's
Barry,
probably lighter than people think too.
Yeah, when you tried on Leia's bikini, what color was that?
Yeah. So I couldn't.
And what
fit
color
that.
was
We
it
had Barry
afterwards?
do that. Yeah, that's like the hazing. This is the first time in the costume side. You got to wear the bikini.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it was.
Nobody would have wanted to see that.
We restrained ourselves from trying things on.
Yeah.
That would have been.
That goes back to that whole. I may never ever get to go back, but I'd like to know that there might be an invitation in the waiting. And if I tried stuff on, that wouldn't have happened.
I will say, I kind of like you said, it's like, every time you go, there's you still don't feel you've seen everything, and I certainly feel the same. Regardless of how many days I've been in there over the years now. And this goes back before Regal Robot was even a thing, or even just working with them and stuff, doing restoration and whatnot. It feels like they're constantly discovering things that they have, because there's just so much material. And over the years, there's just boxes and boxes to go through. And so that aspect is cool. I feel like every time we go, there's something new that they're like, oh, have you ever seen this before? It's like, oh my God.
We were actually looking at a few things that had items listed as
like,
what was that?
Question mark.
Yeah, question marks. And we were like, we might be able to help you remove the question marks if you show those things to us.
So that stuff. So when George, I'll call him George, sold Lucasfilm,
right?
He didn't sell. The archives wasn't part of it.
Correct.
I
So
guess.
all of the molds from the original trilogy and prequels, I don't know about all of them, but I believe the bulk of them went to Disney as part of that.
Oh, they did. Oh, the molds.
The production material type stuff. But the actual props that were used in the movies, he maintained as his collection. And that's, kind of that, and his art collection are the foundations of the new museum.
Yeah.
And he's got a pretty vast collection of, his stuff and things from other movies and things. And his movie poster collection is insane. His art collection is insane.
Is he the one who has all the Norman Rockwell stuff? Or
He's got a lot of those. And it's funny. I mean, as you go through the ranch, this last time we got to take a tour of the main house, which was amazing. As you go through the inn, at the ranch, there's art on all of the walls. And it's not just like, oh, this is something neat that we found at Home Goods. Like, these are all like genuine
part of his collection,
amazing American art pieces with history and extreme value. And it's kind of weird. Like, there's a Norman Rockwell room in the inn, and there is a Norman Rockwell on the wall. Barry, what room did you? So this last trip, one of the nights Barry had his own room, and then he came in. There's a 3-room suite that we get sometimes when we go down, and so that was where we were. But the first night they had Barry put up in a single. And what was that one?
Oh gosh, it was
Frank Lloyd Wright. Wasn't
Frank
it?
Lloyd Wright.
You mentioned that to us.
Frank Lloyd Wright room, and there was a Frank Lloyd Wright piece hanging over the
just
bed.
a beautiful sketch. It's like
huge, large piece.
Oh yeah, it was like 5 or 6 feet long, right? It's it was just a really interesting place to be, and I don't know. I jokingly call the ranch just aggressively peaceful. I don't know if some of this is just because it doesn't hustle and bustle the way it must have when they were doing the prequels, because there's these offices behind the main house where a lot of activity was going. That was I think that was probably the main art department when they were developing stuff for those movies. It's where George worked and did his writing and stuff. And the main house has a big cafeteria that would have had a lot of people in it on a regular basis. There's another cafeteria at the fitness center, which is where we usually wind up, which is amazing every time, and I miss it when I come home. But the grounds overall are so quiet, and like it's not hard to see why George would say, like, this is a good place to sit and create. And it really feels that way every time we go. And every, even just something as simple as like just getting up in the morning and walking down to the main house to get the main area in the inn there to get coffee or whatever. Or if, sometimes I'll call my wife and just start walking around the grounds a little bit. And it's you hear a pin drop sometimes.
Yeah. You knew what he was doing.
The first time we went, I felt like there was actually more people there when we were there. This time it was even a little quieter, almost like eerily quiet. Like, so there were two nights that, so there's in that main part of the inn where there's the kitchen and everything, there's also a lounge. And we spent every night hanging out at that lounge just because it was so peaceful. And, there's a fireplace, we lit a fire. But two nights we watched Star Wars movies. We watched Return of the Jedi one night and Empire Strikes Back. And we were basically alone, and we're at Skywalker Ranch watching Star Wars. Like, it doesn't get better than this.
Yeah.
If George had walked in
on an incredibly small TV.
That's correct. Yes.
How many
George
rooms?
walked in, that probably would have made it.
That would have made it.
As it was, still pretty high on my list. So
have you met him or not? Haven't met him?
No, I have not. I have not. But I feel pretty lucky with all the folks we did meet. We on this last trip thank you for a beautiful segue, by the way.
That's what I'm here for.
We got to go hang around my friend John Berg, which is always something that I look forward to. We chat and text and talk by phone a lot, kind of in our off time, but it's always nice when we're in the same state and can hang out. And John has this habit of where he'll be like, "Oh yeah, come over to the house," and then he'll like text you like 5 minutes later and say, "Hey, would it be okay if Dennis comes?" And you just kind of like, "Dennis Murin, he can come, John. That's fine. We're not gonna fight that." But Dennis brought a really cool. It's a Ray Harryhausen Cyclops sculpture that John Berg had made in 1974, and it was something where John wasn't sure if the mold was any good anymore, but he didn't have a copy for himself, and so they wanted us to take a look at it and see, maybe we could scan it and make a copy for John. And so, happily we did that. Like, it's a really beautiful sculpt.
It really is.
And we didn't have the scanner with us, so we said, we'll take it back to the ranch. We'll bring it to the archives when we start scanning stuff this week, and we'll scan it. And then we were going to either drop it off or something, but Dennis was close enough to the ranch. He was available to drop by one morning, and we're joking, like, we invited him basically to have, toast and coffee or whatever at the ranch that morning before we went to work. And we're like kind of joking to ourselves. We're like, "Oh yeah, Dennis is coming for toast and coffee this morning. Here we got Dennis coming." And so Dennis comes, we have a great little time chatting, and he brought another little thing that I had always wanted to see. That's a long story, but it was really, really cool of him to bring. And then we're talking, we're like, "Oh, do you want some more coffee?" And he just goes like, "Nah, I'm going to go see Ben over at Sound." And he had to leave to go see Ben Burt.
Yeah,
so
everybody's a
we're
first
casually
name.
dropping Dennis, and then
it's cool that they all just
like, come on,
hang out still.
But it's just amazing because everything's a first name, and when you connect the last name, you go, "Oh shit, he means Ben Burt," or
right,
"Oh, yeah. John means Dennis Murin." When he says, "Can Dennis come?"
Can Dennis come? Yeah. Or if they're talking about Don, it's Don Bees, or whoever else.
Or when you hear them talk about Steven,
Phil, it's
which
Phil
happened
Tippett.
quite a bit. We're like, Steven Spielberg?
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think Dennis mentioned him quite a few times.
David mentioned Steven.
Don't let him come.
Yeah, exactly.
If they want to hang out.
Whoa, we got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
I will say this is the first time telling this story. Dennis Murin stole $100 from me.
He did. I saw it.
And fast. So John was doing that thing where he was like, we went to a great little restaurant, and we're sitting there, and John did that thing where he grabbed the check like he was going to pay for it, and so I pulled out $100 bill to hand across the table to try and cover, and I got it about here, like just barely up out of my thing, and Dennis, like lightning, just swiped it right out of my hand and popped it in his pocket. What the heck just happened?
The reflexes of that man. I think Dennis is in his 80s. I think
if he's not 80 yet, he's pushing
close.
80. Yeah,
And he's tall.
78,
Those tall guys don't move that fast.
Yeah, no, and apparently he said that was something him and Randy Dutra just used to do to people. They just walk up and randomly like grab a tool out of their hand or grab something and just. But yeah, so he yoinked $100 out of my hand. He did eventually give it back. So
well, that's good.
You know,
well,
so
Dave, you say tall guys. So Dennis and John are both very tall, and we all know I'm not. So it was very nice that they agreed to take pictures with all of us. But when you see the picture of me standing between Dennis and John, I look like a dwarf.
Well, yeah, I think Dennis is 6'5", 6'6". I think he said he used to be like his peak height was about 6'6".
Yeah,
and John is at least 6'3", 6'4", and built rail thin, so he looks even taller. But yeah, no, the two of them are like literal giants. And then of course there were shoes. And
basically,
stuff
a big guy took your money.
Yes, yeah, exactly. He took my lunch money.
When you can snatch the C note from my hand, it's time to leave. You know, it's like
right, exactly. Yeah. It's like, okay, are you going to tell your friend Steven how you took my lunch money?
Yeah.
Well, quite fine.
So they still mix stuff in Skywalker Sound and everything, right? That seemed to be the place to do that.
I think that's probably the most active part of what's going on the ranch these days. Is
for sure.
What's going on there?
And we've been there in the past where there's times when we're at the inn at the ranch, which is reserved for people who have business on property, and so we'll be there. And like this trip, the first 2 days, we were the only 3 people in the inn, and there's I don't know, 20 rooms or something. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's 24 rooms.
Is that it? Yeah. And it's just like we're walking around, and I mean, it's beautifully kept up and everything is filled in the morning and there's pastries and there's, it's like, it's as if there was a whole bunch of people there, but it's like, this is all just for us. This is very nice.
Yeah, they don't know. They're like,
clearly next time you need a larger staff.
I'm sorry. You okay? Did you get
housekeeping is like, let's see, is George and Steven and Ben and probably Francis. No, it's these 3 jerks from New York, but put the pastries out anyway.
But there have been times where we've been there and like there's almost no one, and then there's other times where like we wake up in the morning and there's 20 people in the lobby of the inn, like where the dining area is, all munching down on breakfast and everything like that, and they've all got instrument cases with them because they're the orchestra.
Oh,
and they do the scoring there.
Exactly, and so there's days where that's going on. There have been days where I don't think the album has come out or been announced yet. But one of the times we were there was a relatively famous person recording albums at Sky Sound while we were there.
That was the first trip I was there with you. We did not see said famous person, but we were talking to
I heard who that is, and I think that is out because they did Christmas music, I think.
I don't know. But it was out of an abundance of caution.
It doesn't matter.
I will hold that back.
So Elvis was there. What are you going to do?
Yeah, but I mean,
he's not dead.
Like Barry said, we did not get to see said person anyway, but we saw a bunch of the crew and some of the recording engineers and stuff were staying at the inn while they were going. We've sometimes the archive staff, because there's now a mix of people from LA that are doing museum stuff and up north that are, kind of day to day at the archives. There's times where they'll come up and stay for a week or 2 weeks or a month, and while they're in town working. And I mean, I'll say this, having stayed, in the San Francisco area or even just over the bridge versus staying on property, there is no comparison. It is, by far one of the best experiences I've ever had, and always look forward to when we're doing these things.
That's cool. Had you been? I'm giving you another segue. Maybe not. Had you been to the Kerner?
No.
ILM.
Yeah.
Later. 10:30.
10:32. Yeah. No. Unfortunately, I never got over there. I had the invite a few times. They actually invited me to. When they were closing down that big party, which was really, really nice of them. I don't know how that invite happened, but yeah, unfortunately I was in New York and unable to attend and never got to go there.
Yeah, because had talked on the show, and I'm sure you've seen him. That Adams tested videos up there with Ben Burt and who else was in those?
Warren Peterson.
Warren was there, and
yes,
that was.
He's
that was
had
really
some great
cool
interviews
stuff.
with those guys.
Yeah.
Well, what we did get to see, Tom, was some of the racks of like model parts that used to be at ILM.
Oh my God, that made the OCD organizer in me so happy. So I mean, I'm sorry. Did you say Adam Savage?
Yeah, I did say I call him Adam, but we did talk a little bit. That was okay to talk about because Adam said it was okay to talk about,
and he's also posted it all over his YouTube channel. The Tested channel has documented.
But even just us getting to go, that was really cool. I've been a couple times to the cave in the past, and it's always really great. But it was cool this time because everything was so different in the new workshop.
Yeah, you really got to see like the massive transformation.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, it's in a way it's a little sad because so many of the props are gone, but there's still a lot of props there, and especially once you go into like more of the tested offices area, there's a lot of stuff out. So it's. It is not as packed with props as before. It's still loaded with amazing replica and real props everywhere you look. And in terms of just being a builder or being someone that makes models, oh my God! Like those racks that he brought in from Kern are insane.
That's awesome that he got. They could have easily just been no one wants these. We got to trash them.
Well, and in the interviews, in the videos that Adams posted on Tested, he talks about, yes, he's going to use those things for himself, but he's also opening all that up to like his former ILM coworkers that if they need parts, they can come take them. So he's trying to, he moved them to his space so that they would be preserved, but he's opening it up to the builder community to say, if you need this stuff, it's here.
That's awesome. Yeah. That is so good. And it really is like, preserving something like that it was, but the level of organization in that and just his studio and in general is so nice to see.
As someone who has labeled, a workshop and like, a dozen boxes of parts and he has like 80, the boxes alone are too expensive to buy. He's got those Sortimo things. Those are like $100 boxes just to put stuff in.
Worth it.
It's amazing.
He did say what was nice because I almost wept looking at this because I'm like, in my studio, people tend to think organizers are automatic and that if you just open the top of the organizer and throw the screw in and close it, it'll find its way.
It'll sort itself.
Yeah. It's like a disorganizer at our shop. And I'm like, so the opposite of that. And it drives me absolutely bananas. And he's like, I have the benefit of being the one person that works here though. So I know I'm always going to leave it where I want it. Yeah. And I'm always going to put it back. And, if he had 20 other people working on stuff, it'd probably be a lot more disorganized. Or who knows? Maybe he would crack.
He would crack the whip. I would imagine
that he's got hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
Tom, in my tech workshop at work, I have a bin in the middle of the floor that says on all four sides says Todd will put this away. And I just have people drop the stuff right in there, and I'll put it back in the spots where it came from because it drives me insane.
Gosh, yeah.
We've got bins of cables and all kinds of adapters, and it's like, and when I go into a bin labeled something and there's screwdrivers in it, it's just my head wants to explode. So.
Yeah, or like, we have a bin that says like, plastic cutoff or whatever, where it's like cut off pieces from plastic tubing in different sizes. Yeah. And it's like you reach in there and you pull out, not just a metal pipe, but a metal pipe with sharp burrs all around the edges, and I'm like, what? How? Who can't? What?
So when I started at this place, I've been here 3 years, I described the experience as like, going into the office is like at some point someone erroneously received a tsunami warning and just threw everything in every bin that was nearby in the hopes that something could be saved because but now everything's labeled, it's just
Yeah, I don't know if I could handle, like, my shop is the same way. Like, I have everything pretty organized.
If you
I've
need
even
the
got
order, if you need order and it's not, it just doesn't work. It's just
Yeah.
Well, and it's also for me, I see it as money because I am in the shop and I have two people wandering back and forth for 5 minutes, and I'm like, what are you guys looking for? And they're like, oh, we need, such and such drill bit. I'm like, well, here's the drill bit organizer. And they're like, yeah, it wasn't in there. And you look and you open up the drill bit organizer, and it used to have 100 bits, and now there's like 17 bits in there, and they're all random, and they're not even in the right place.
Crazy.
And it's just like, okay, now I just paid, two people and me to go hunt for this for a half hour. I'm like, I could have just bought new bits at that point. Like, you know what? Yeah, if you're not going to put this stuff back, just throw it out. I'll buy new ones, and then that's it. We're calling it a day.
That's it.
Yeah, but he's definitely has it down to a science. It's not like these modern pristine. He's got his own thing, but the shot, I would, obviously, I know you've seen it, but I would love to see that.
Well, when we were there, he was going through his plan to even step it up again and to put drawer slides on everything and to get covers for things that didn't happen. It was really impressive. He was already stamping metal. He had made a jig to stamp metal to make drawers out of stuff.
Oh yeah, he mentioned that on one of his shows.
It was cool.
Any collector, because if he's got two videos, one where he takes everything off his shelf. Now, I think we've all done that in our, we obviously, we collect a lot of crap, but listeners too, from all our pictures, and we've all moved once at least. But this guy had 17 Billy bookcases, and then bought a box for every shit. Just the boxes alone is this an investment in.
But I loved listening to him describe it because it's so Adam Savage, right? He takes everything off a shelf, photographs a shelf, then he takes everything off that shelf into a box, and then he puts a picture of the shelf on the box and labels the box with everything that's in it. It's like, if you're going to do it, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. I have fur boxes at the shop with different types of fur in them. And what I do now is I cut a swatch off of it, and I hot glue the swatch on the outside of the box so that it doesn't just say brown fur. It says this brown fur, and how many yards are in there.
Oh, that's great.
And it makes things a lot easier.
So is there anything else, Tom, that's sort of upcoming that you can talk about, or anything you want to talk about? Or
by the time this comes out, there's more coming that we can't quite talk about yet, but early March, we will have a 40th anniversary of Temple of Doom prop that comes out, prop replica. And then
Is it a chicken skewer?
It's an empty hole.
It's definitely the chicken skewer. Yes.
Is it based on the original that you got to handle?
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, tell you, he laser scanned your chicken skewer.
I will sign the plaques for the chicken skewer if you like.
That's excellent. Could you draw sketches of chicken?
I'll draw a sketch of a chicken skewer.
The Legacy Edition chicken skewer. I love it.
It's no problem. I didn't make it, but I
bought it.
I'm really looking for the other one if you happen to come across it.
Brought to you by Paisani Poultry.
Yeah. It's holding the door open at the archives because they're like, what dope one?
They don't even know what this is.
Yeah. Sorry.
For what it's worth, I've never seen a chicken skewer at the archives. I don't know if that helps.
And in all those binders we went through, Tom, I didn't see any pictures of chicken.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
You don't think they had hero and stunt chicken skewers? They probably had something.
I mean, they must have had one rigged to go on a belly plate for the guy.
Yeah.
There's one sticking out of the guy, right?
Yeah.
So
he has
that's at least version 2.
Yeah.
It's I'll let you know if we ever turn one of those up.
Okay. Good.
But no, it is alas not the chicken skewer.
But while we're still on chicken skewers, in the 6-inch Indiana Jones line, it came with the one with him in a tuxedo.
The white tuxedo one has the chicken skewer. Which
Excellent.
Is brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
I approve.
I have it on my shelf over there.
No notes. That's great. So we have that Temple of Doom non-chicken skewer prop replica coming out in early March. In mid to late March, we have our next maquette, which will be a sketch edition, and it's going to be with someone who hasn't done sketches with us yet, but is an amazing sketch artist. And
see that's cool. I'm going to interrupt you again.
Yeah,
I know you've done 2 sketch editions, right?
So we've done the Rancor and then Prune Face.
And now
so we had Phil Tippett and Tom Sanamond. Now we're back with Phil for the Wampa. And then we'll have the maquette with someone new.
Where'd that idea come from? It was because no one's really done something like that before.
So it's that's actually a real easy answer. That it came from Rob at the shop, Rob DiNicola, who's our creative director with me and helps. He and I together really set the course on like what the product lines are going to be, what we're going to do next, and we were trying to think with the Rancor because it really grew out of the idea that the Rancor was a complex thing to make. And it was going to be more expensive than we wanted it to be because of that. And it was like, well, what can we do to make this more special then? And he said, like, well, you ever see where like somebody goes to get a comic book artist sign and they draw a little picture on something? And I was super skeptical about it. I'm like totally right up front. I was like, I don't know. And we talked about it a bit. And then we hit on a few different ways to do it. And our initial idea for it that we both agreed on, we were both excited about, actually wound up totally different from what we did. I won't say exactly what it was in case it's something that comes up again in the future, but I'll say this. There is a 2-word answer for why it changed. And those words are Phil Tippett.
Okay.
We were all set. We had an agreement. We talked him through everything. We looked at some stuff. We sent some samples over, and we're like, great, this is what it's going to be. And then a very short time later, he said, hey, I'm all done. And we're like, we didn't send you the stuff to start. How are you all done? And he just did his own thing and, sketched them on paper and did them the way he did them. And it worked out even better because it, and luckily, it resonated with people. And it's nice to hear that, like, it resonated with you, that you see it as something unique and something people
think it's cool, especially it's like these guys, when they built this stuff, had to have sketched it out. So it's not like it's a comic book artist, but it's sort of like a part of the process. So I think it's awesome.
Well, I also think that there's a subgroup of collectors who are really into the making of stuff. I know, Tom, that's your wheelhouse.
Guilty.
You've definitely tapped into a group of collectors who are equally passionate about not just the movies, but how they were made and the people that made them. And you can get autographs, but something like this, where it's one of a kind, is something that, like Dave's, I've never seen it done before.
Yeah,
it's a step above, and it did exactly what we needed it to do too. It became that thing that was like, well, what can make this really special? And that's what it was. And I'm sure that's a big part of why it sold out in 10 minutes. It was something that special, something that hadn't been done before. And Phil put his spin on it and made it even cooler. And it's funny, talking to John and Dennis at some point, I think I told them the story, and I was like, yeah, we had everything planned, and then Phil just did his own thing, but made it cooler. And they were just kind of like, yeah, that happens,
Well, I on our first trip, when I went with you, I was with you when you were talking to Phil about it, and I kind of saw the sort of machination.
Yeah. Well, and he just kept taking it back to this place. And I mean, the biggest change really is that each sketch was more unique. And it also really depends on who's doing it. Tom Sanamond, who's a guy who's very mechanical and who does armatures and is a machinist, his sketches were a lot more uniform. Still, every one of them done by hand, still everyone unique, a few different poses, but a lot of ones that were very similar. Because he's just a little more thoughtful, a little more cautious, and a little more measured. Whereas, Phil is just pure id. And it's just sort of like, opens up the brain and lets it pour out onto the page. And every sketch that he did in the Rancor edition and every sketch he did in the Wampa edition is just like, wild and hairy and woolly and different.
So the first time I saw these, I thought, like, if you put them in a stack in the right order, would it be like a flip book?
Yeah. The Rancor ones really felt almost like storyboards.
And that's what it looked like.
Elements from the movie.
Yeah, that's what I got from that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was doing the shots. Whereas the Wampa, it's a little more, you know, variations on headshots on a lot of them, because that was his shot, you know.
It looks like framing shot. It looks like perspective framing shots for making sure that the thing looks right from whichever angle. And no, that's awesome.
But there's a bunch of cool profiles. There's a lot of them where it's like just the Wampa's head coming in on a crazy angle with the mouth wide open and you know, weird perspective stuff, and it's fun. It's cool. You know, we were going through the sketches actually today to do some final pictures, to do some social posts with them, and it's just like damn, these are all cool. You know, like there's they're going to be randomly given out, and it's like there's not a bad one in here. Like whatever you get is going to be so weird and unique and yours that at the end of the day, like, you know, it's amazing to think like, okay, you know, here's a one-of-a-kind Phil Tippett hand-drawn sketch
by the person who created the original. I mean, this is just that's
such a where is that? Where are you going to get that? It's crazy. Yeah, it's really cool that we get to do these things. It is
fair to say that that's a concept you're going to stick with and do more of, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're going to see. Honestly, it's every time we do something like this, it's like, well, let's see how it goes. And the response to the Rancor said, okay, we can do this again. The response to Tom Sandemon's Pruneface one said, okay, you know, we can try this again. Now we'll see how the Wampa goes, and we'll see how the next maquette goes. And, you know, from there, we'll evaluate how often we're going to do it after. It's not going to be an every edition thing, but it is going to be something that will return, I think, because so far people have really, really responded to it. And look, for me, it's like any chance I get to involve these guys and girls that worked on these movies in what we're doing, and, you know, give people more of a way to connect with them is something I want to do. So if this works out well and people keep responding to it, you know, then we'll do it as much as we can.
It's a tether to the original thing. I mean, it's just it is that point of connection that just doesn't exist with any other thing.
And isn't that exactly what we're always jonesing for?
Absolutely.
You know, that's the rush.
Like, you can talk all you want about the amount of time you spent with the original and looking at the original, whatever, but this is from the same hand.
Yeah, and exactly.
That's extraordinary.
And, you know, pair it with a wicked replica of the thing too, and it's
that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying those two things together, it's like it's providence.
And the interviews that you've been doing with these people that tie to the releases, I think, have been great because they're in depth. So like you come away from watching a 45-minute or hour-long interview, and you have an even better understanding of what went into it.
Yeah, and I just love talking shop with these people. Like, you know, for me, it's just any excuse to sit down and pick their brains about how they did things. And like you said, there is a subset of collectors that are obsessed with the making of these movies the way I am, and so I just ask the questions I want to know and hope that other people are along for the ride.
It must be fascinating for you to, having recreated some of these things, even like early on. To find what's done out of expediency,
right?
Just like, you know, like just like you were trying to recreate something and make it perfect, and they were trying to get it done with a very tight deadline.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is much easier to make something the first time than it is to replicate something that is loose and to do it in, you know, a repeatable, tight way. So, you know, wherever Phil put the hair on the Wampa's face, he was right. Wherever we put the fur on the Wampa's face, we got to get it right. And that's
exactly.
a very different type of laying hair, you know, and that we deal with all the time with everything we do, you know. And it really is, it's like, we very often when we're painting our things like the maquettes, we go for style rather than spec for spec, you know, kind of drip for drip. We do as much of that as we can, and if there's major stuff, we include it. But I would much rather see them do a natural wash on something than to intentionally go in and paint a bunch of little dots and drizzles that look intentional and look fake. You know, so there's an organic feel to the way these guys painted because they were painting so fast. So if you don't do that, you lose something. It looks fake. It looks like a toy. And so, you know, a lot of times people will say, they'll look at our stuff and like, oh my God, the paint is exact. And in my mind, I'm like, it's not, but it's the right style, applied the right way, in the right order, and loose. And that's why it feels exact. And that, to me, is a better thing than going in and trying to stencil out every...
You're duplicating the process versus the precise,
Yeah. And obviously with the goal of being as precise as you can.
Yeah.
But, process over perfection is going to yield a more faithful replica.
Right.
That's cool. All right, you were going through your list and we interrupted. So,
geez,
Wampa, not chicken skewer,
not the chicken skewer. Next,
Maquette.
In April, we have a Return of the Jedi prop replica that's going to be pretty cool. Something that Rob said he didn't know he wanted until he saw the real one at the archives.
Interesting.
And then end of April, we are doing a large size Wampa bust that goes with our Tauntauns.
Oh.
The 1-to-1 Tauntauns we do. So this we're calling screen size because it's based on the special edition head. But it is not the size that the guy wore in the special edition, that Howie Weed wore in the special edition. It is the size it should have been on screen, which is the equivalent of a 10-foot space monster,
Oh my God.
So that's made, it's a little more of like an inspired by piece than a prop replica, but that will go great for all the people who have bought the life-size Tauntaun busts we do that hang on the wall. So you can hang this on the wall next to it and they can, talk to you like you're in the Country Bear Jamboree or something.
There you go. Nice.
And then in May, we have our first Phantom Menace replica that will be coming out because it's the 25th anniversary of Phantom Menace. So that'll come out on May 19th. And
they just announced that that's going back into theaters.
I did see that. Yeah.
So that's everything that you can talk about.
I think so. Yeah. Okay. And as far as I can take it.
So how is work going on the Jar Jar head?
Jar Jar's getting more respect. I think
he's coming around.
When we've met Ahmed Best a couple times,
we'll see how that goes when the film comes back.
There's love for him.
I've definitely seen that. I've seen there's actually kind of an over the top love for him in a certain subset of fandom that is really, I'm sure it's a pendulum swing against the not love that he got originally.
Yes.
But it's a far swing, and it's good to see. He seems like a good dude.
Yeah, I think it's more about him than it is about the character.
Absolutely,
I think that's true.
And I know Gordon Tarpley did the Jedi Temple Challenge show with him. And just says he's just an awesome dude, and it's nice. I'm very happy for him that it's swung that way. I hope it continues to swing that way for him, and but yeah, it'll.
Or does this movie release set him back?
Oh no,
25 years.
But
I think people will see it through a different perspective now than
I suspect. A big part of this is the people who saw it 25 years ago that were under 10. It's sort of like, did you ever see the Ewok Line episode of How I Met Your Mother?
Yes.
So if you haven't, look it up on YouTube. Just look up the Ewok Line, and it is Barney, a character on the show, is using the fact that this woman he's dating likes Ewoks to prove that she is older than she says she is, because that she didn't like Ewoks. I think that was it. Because if you were older than a certain age,
exactly,
and so he goes through this whole timeline thing. It's like,
that's awesome.
Got a whole PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. It's totally worth watching. It's a lot of fun.
I never minded the Ewoks. Todd had a hate for the Ewoks, and I was
stupid, silly.
How old was I? I was like 18 when it came out, or something.
You were a young 18.
Yeah, I'm a young whatever I am now that I won't say out loud.
Yes, that you can't even count anymore.
Keep telling yourself
exactly. Funny.
Well,
awesome.
We appreciate you coming on, talking about our exploits in California and about all the awesome stuff you've got coming out through Regal Robot.
RegalRobot.com.
RegalRobot.com.
all the medias, all the
All
socials.
the media's at Regal Robot. And if you're on Facebook, go to look up Regal Robot Fan and Collector Showcase. That's our Facebook group. And that's where we do all the real like teases and sneak peeks. And stuff
Tom
like
always
that.
is on there. He's not just a figurehead. He's in there.
That's right.
It's a good community too. I have to say, it's a good. I'm in there.
It's a fun bunch.
Yeah, I'm in there too.
Everybody's
I don't know.
fun.
What was funny for me was everybody was trying to guess what the Empire Strikes Back prop was going to be, and I kept answering their questions with anagrams of the word Wampa. So I was like, because we had a picture of Phil sketching and we blurred out what he was sketching, and I just put, "We anticipate many people answering." ...
Oh, that's so funny. I didn't even
like,
catch
it's
that.
It's a tauntaun. It's this. It's that. And I'm like, and I just every time someone guessed wrong, I was like, weird answer, man. Pontificate again or whatever. Like I was just everything was an anagram of Wampa. And I started capitalizing it. I'm like, they're not picking up. Like, Regal Robot decoder ring. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of dumb fun we have over there.
Yeah, so check that. Join that group. There's definitely
yeah, and
there's good
like
stuff in there.
I know I texted you even over the weekend, Tom, but I just reading through the group after you officially announced what it was, the response I think was overwhelmingly positive, which is exciting.
Yeah. I'm very, very happy with the response, and I'm beyond happy. It's and it goes even beyond our group. I've seen it in other groups. I've seen it, like the most minuscule of voices that would say, a couple of people that were like, "Oh, it's priced out of my range" or whatever. But we get that all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And it was the ratio on this one is so good. It was like 98% positive replies to like 2 price bashers, and it's like, you know what, that is a huge win for us. That sounds great. So it'll be really exciting to see what happens Tuesday when these go up for sale on Tuesday the 20th on regalrobot.com. And
no blatant plug. That's what we're here for.
I just think it's really important that people's sons who collect Wampas get one of these. So just saying.
That's right. Yeah.
And,
and he'll either love it or become terrified all over again.
That's
right. Yeah. Finally, he's face to face with that.
There you go. Life size, almost. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh God. But yeah, no. Thank you so much for having me and for chatting.
Always a pleasure to talk to you.
And I'll say it publicly
Barry when we go to the archives. And
I'm going to publicly say it now. Thank you for bringing me with you and allowing me to help in your research trips, because it's. And I do feel bad every time I come back and I tell these guys about how amazing it was, but I hope that they're living vicariously through me.
You don't have to feel, only Todd feels bad. I don't feel bad.
I think that's just how Todd feels.
I'm happy for you.
No, it's been really great having you on those trips. I mean, it's nice just to hang out always and talk about guitar stuff and annoy Rob, but then also. You were a huge help on both trips in terms of cataloging stuff and doing photography and organizing things and, giving me beautifully organized folders at the end of it. That makes me happy.
Barry's very organized, for
I have to do what I can so I get invited back.
He's all about the spreadsheets. Yes. No, you like that.
I do. Actually, I enjoy. It's funny because we'll come back and we've spent all day doing work, and then we'll go get something to eat, and then I'm on the laptop putting pictures in folders so that when by the time we get back,
hours every night. Well, that was we sat down, we threw Empire on the screen, we lit a fire, and you pulled out the laptop.
And then I fell asleep, and you took a picture of me sleeping.
I did. That was inadvertent. I was just trying to shoot the room, and then I look, and I'm like, "It's just Barry passed out."
We've seen that before.
Yes, they've seen me passed out before.
It's
awesome. And if anybody ever wants to get Rob DiNicola to tune out, just start talking about guitars.
He doesn't like guitars?
He doesn't play the way
I don't play either, but I like the idea of guitars because I like a nice instrument. I think it's cool.
I don't think he dislikes guitars. I think he's just.
It's just a certain point where if you're not a guitar person, it's just.
And Barry and I.
We take it to a level of detail. We get into the
weeds of the effects and the pedals and the tech of it. And that totally, womp.
Yeah.
Me and Barry found a group for you. There's a Eddie Van Halen convention in Connecticut.
That know about that? There's literally a Frankenstein builders convention.
It's more or less, and it's it's at a music store in somewhere in Connecticut that and everyone comes with their
Right, they bring their replicas
of Frankenstein plus I guess all the other versions.
It sounds like the old prop parties that we used to have at the RPF, where everybody would bring like
a
6-foot tables worth of props that they've made.
I went to the last one right before
what'd
COVID.
You do this? How'd you do that? What's that from? This was a good
That's
time.
where we met our pal Brian. I stalked
Brian
him
Mix,
there, but
that's where Dave met him.
Now he's our friend. But yeah, they have this, and everyone goes up and plays. They have a background band that you play your guitar.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll have to go. I'll even go to that. But anyway, that's off topic. Thank you, Tom. Check him out, regalrobot.com, at Regal Robot on all the socials, not to mention Tom Spina Designs, who could fix all your things that need fixing and
all your chickens and skewers
and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Anything you need. Thank you, Tom. And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.